Well, good night. Hold on, give me a second. I will Mr. Rogers this yet again. Welcome to this revival night. Guys, I gotta say, I should probably sit down. Guys, I came in this a little bit ago and I was tired. I've a lot of stuff I've done today. I've had multiple meetings. This is my second service. I was tired, and I'm not gonna lie, okay? A little more headroom than I anticipated. That's fine. It's fine. It's all good. I was tired, and I was kind of like, oh man, another service, another service. But I just had a great little time of worship, to some really good worship. My go-to when I'm feeling like really down, and especially when I'm feeling like I don't want to say over worship. That sounds weird. But when it's just like, it's just not hitting right. You know what I mean? Like you're going to the same old things. You're like, it's just not hitting right. I'm having a hard time entering. I know it's me. It's not the music. What do? I have a go-to. I've had this go-to for probably close to 10 years. And it's Guy Penrod. Sometimes the Gaither Band, but mostly Guy Penrod. So guys, I came in and I actually was listening to some earlier. And what's up, Rebecca? I'm going to get to you guys in a second. And I put on some worship. I put on some Guy Penrod. And, man, I got through about 2 songs. And, I about sang myself happy. So we're going to get into this in just a second. One thing I got to say was really funny. So it's Guy Penrod, and it's just like, it's like Southern Baptist, music concert. And I'm looking at it, shows a wide shot of the stage. And Guy's getting down with some worship. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior, right? He's going on, and they're worshiping. I look, and like the entire, probably 2,000 people, 3,000 people in this audience. And they're all sitting. Good music. Yup. I'm like, okay, he's doing this Southern Baptist. They're all sitting there watching. And I look, and there's one person out of maybe 3,000 standing up. I'm like, well, those Southern Baptists got a Pentecostal sitting in front of, or standing in the midst of them. They got that one Pentecostal brother who's standing up. Both his arms are raised. Everyone else is sitting and worshiping just fine. So that made me laugh. And I'm kind of also joking because I had a great meeting earlier today with some Baptist brethren who've been attending our church, and we were talking about some of the differences between Pentecostal and Baptist. So then I thought that was really funny. I'm like, he's there. So so DOCC Youth Group says hi. So tonight, guys, my youth group is joining us, okay, online. So just for those who that may be confusing, Tristan is the youth minister here in Ely, and then I do youth in Round Mountain, and I haven't been there all month. So Tristan's been going down on Fridays. Well, Tristan, Rebecca, obviously they're kids, Lily and Judah, because they're part of the youth group down there, and they've been having youth service. And tonight he had texted me and said that they are going to tune in tonight. He was trying to pray about which way to go, and he's like, I'm going to tune into your guys' message tonight for youth. We're going to watch the message. I think that's what he said. Maybe that was me changing it to be like, make myself feel special. But for whatever reason, they are tuned in tonight. So guys, every one of you who's watching, John and Ginger, I see you guys are on here. We had great worship earlier today. I just kept going. I mean, we got through those songs earlier today. I think we got through 4 or 5 of them. I just kept going tonight and just kept going. You can't go wrong with Guy Penrod. In my opinion. I like Gaithers, but I only like Gaithers when Guy Penrod's in it, and there's the new stuff of his I don't like. Nope, just give me the stuff with Guy Penrod. If not, I'll just go to listen to his stuff. So that's my go-to. Anyway, so my youth group from Round Mountain is joining us tonight, not in person. They're 3 hours away. They're in Round Mountain, and so I decided I'm actually going to basically talk to them. I'm going to teach this. We're going to be in the church, the Laodicea. I'm going to teach this as if this is going to be a little more youth-oriented tonight. And it's funny because I joked in the very beginning, out of all the 7 churches, the youth group knows about Laodicea because that's the one that youth pastors preach on all the time. You got to be hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm, right? He'll spew you out of his mouth. And so most youth groups know about Laodicea. And so it's kind of funny that this is typically, Laodicea is kind of like more well known around youth. They probably don't know, couldn't name, now I know they can because he's been teaching on Sundays, but typically the youth probably couldn't name 6 of the 7 churches, but they're going to be able to name Laodicea. So we're going to get that tonight. So I'm going to pray real quick. Lord, be with us, bless us, help us as we dive into your word. Amen. So yeah, let's get into Laodicea. Some background, okay? Let's get into some background. The city was originally founded by the Ionians. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, guys. I don't know how to pronounce Greek. I'm not even good at mispronouncing it. But anyways, in about 2000 BC. So for context, so everyone listening probably has some idea of the different, some of these messages we've been preaching. So you guys, I know Tristan's been teaching, so you guys should track with this. For those of you from here, Ely, I know I talked about this, so you should track. But 2000 BC, so the city was originally founded, the city of Laodicea. That should sound familiar to you because that's the same time that Sardis was like king of the hill. Oh, no pun intended. It should have been intended. I didn't think about it. But that Sardis was like a great city. Now, by the time these letters are being written through Jesus, out to these churches, Sardis it's known for being bluster, right? A bunch of pride without anything substance to back it up. But at the time that this church, Laodicea, was founded, so Laodicea is started the same time that Sardis was at the height of its glory. Okay, some things about their water supply. What is all this hot nor cold and spewing and all this stuff? Their water supply is, they're in a Tri-City area. It was south of Philadelphia and not far from Colossae, on the banks of the river Lycus, a tributary of the Meander. It was a twin. Okay, so this is going to go into a bunch of stuff. Basically, you've got a Tri-City area, right? For those of you who watch Phineas and Ferb. And it's a Tri-City area. And so you got these 3 cities, and you have one city who has hot springs, like hot tubs almost, right? Medicinal. You go, you get in these hot springs. They're warm. They're soothing. Maybe you have joint and other problems, and they can even help, they believe would even heal you because of all the minerals and the sulfur and the stuff in them. So they had these medicinal healing properties. On the other hand, you had another city that had this like fresh, cold water that would run off of the mountain, and they'd have this amazingly fresh, cold water, right? Well, then you have Laodicea. They didn't have either of those things. They had the hot water from one city. They had the cold water from another city. And then by the time any of the water got to them, it was nasty, right? That cold water that would come, by the time it got to them, and the aqueducts and the things that they would use to get it to them, imagine Laodicea is LA, okay? And all their water gets piped from the Central Valley of California. And by the time it gets down to them, it's gross. Like, we didn't drink water in LA. It was bad. We got bottled water long before people were buying bottled water. And so their water, it'd run through these pipes and it would get warm. That cold, fresh water would get warm. It would pick up like sediment and stuff from the pipes, and it would be gross. They also had a byproduct because they do a lot of textile stuff. They actually are famous for the black cloth, black wool that they would produce. And part of that byproduct is they kind of like also mess up their water. So they just had nasty water, okay? So you've got one city who has warm, hot, good, medicinal, medicine-like healing water, and another one that has cold, refreshing, fresh water. And then we have, so I'm going to check the comments every so often if there's any questions or anything. And then they have Laodicea, who has this bad water. So what happens is, if you're like me, you grew up hearing that it's better to either be hot or cold, not lukewarm. And hot is you're hot and you're on fire for the Lord. And cold is you're out there. I should also probably turn the sound off. Cold represented being worldly. And, depending on the preacher, some version of how they get around how it was better to be cold towards the Lord and in the world than it was to be like in church and not saved. Now, I have why I think it would be better to be out in the world, a sinner in the world, than to be lost in a church. In fact, we're going to get to that here in a minute. But that's not what this is saying. So this is why you have to study things. It's so important to understand. And this is why it's so important to be like the Bereans, because this is something that I just heard my entire life. And then we had the Rostaseals came in, and they're doing a revival week. And he teaches on this, and he teaches the truth. I was like, I have never heard that before. So then I go and I talk to my pastor. He's like, no, yeah, that's how it is. And then I go and I start to study it. I'm like, I've thought this was wrong the entire time. We've always thought that it was better to be in the world and off sinning, go out and be a good sinner, quote unquote, right? Than it is, like, man, we had this wrong. What Jesus is saying here is the hot represents one benefit and the cold represents another benefit, right? If you have achy bones, certain skin diseases, or that hot water is going to help you. Other times you want that cold, refreshing water. They both have benefits. I kind of look at this as like, well, okay, kind of like the church in Ephesus and the church in Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia was the missionary church, and then Ephesus, and I know they lost their first love, but let's go back to before they lost their first love. They were great with doctrine. So Ephesus, I would think of as like hot. They are on their word, they're studying, they know their word, they're going to call out heretics and false teachers and all these things, and they have a benefit. They are hot towards the body. And then you have Philadelphia, they're the missionary church. Man, they're cold, they're refreshing in a world of all these other things. They are, a fresh message from God that people are getting saved and coming in. And I'm taking some liberties there with some of those, but in a very general sense there. Those both have benefit. So when you have certain churches that are big on the Bible and people can come in and they can learn the Bible, and you have other churches that are big on evangelism, those are all benefits. Now, it's great to just be a fivefold church and we can incorporate all these things, but I've seen God use some churches to be more evangelistic and some churches to be more disciple-like building. Yes, we should make disciples, and those are two parts of it. But sometimes you have, a minister who is really good at one or the other. I believe that's why God put me and Tristan here, is because he leans towards evangelism and I lean towards the doctrinal purity. And I hope you didn't hear that, Judah. I know you're watching. I know you didn't hear that in my voice just now. I'm always harassing him when that happens to him. And guys, I've been talking all day. Cut me some slack, okay? Let me get some water. And so, like I could err, I could go off and lock myself in a room and study and just spend time with the Lord all day and be like, oh yeah, there's a world we're supposed to reach. And then, Tristan, when we first met, he would err more on the other side, like, it's okay if we fudge a few things and we get some details blurry, as long as we're getting people in. And it has God brought us together, and it's made me much more missional, and it's made him much more doctrinal. And so now you'll see us go out, and it depends on what situation. You'll see some situations where we're both out in a gas station and we're chatting someone up, we're talking to people, we're inviting them to blah, 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 right? And then other times you'll see both of us and we're just deep into the word and we're studying something, we're getting into something. And we both had, now he's always known how to study, I've always been somewhat evangelistic at times, but our natural bit, and so, bringing us together, because neither one of us had that necessarily that full, and we're learning how to get better and have that full fivefold ministry by working together. And we have different natural bits. And so this is really what is being talked about, is this idea of, you guys, I know you've been taking spiritual growth tests, okay? And spiritual gift tests is what I'm trying to say. And it's like, okay, it's better to find out that, you're an evangelist and go out and be an evangelist. You may have idolized Billy Graham. Well, he'd be evangelistic. You may have idolized someone like a theologian and go, man, I wish I could just preach like that, but my gifting's over here. Like it's fine. It's like, I'd rather you just find what you're good at, okay? Find that you're good at doctrine. You're good at evangelism. You're a prayer warrior. It's so easy to look and go, oh, well, I'm not the pastor. I'm not the worship leader. I must not have anything. You say, no, find what it is. And I'm a big believer in this, especially for youth, is you find your calling, and that is your direction for your life, is what God has called you to do. I wanted to be a movie director, and then God called me into ministry to be a pastor instead. We follow what God has called us to do, not just, oh, I think I want to do this. And so it's better to be, one church, they were hot. Oh, it's better if you were hot and you were fervent for doctrine and the word. It'd be better if you were out there and you were just killing it and you were just like winning people to the Lord. But instead, you're lukewarm. What this church found themselves in, I'm going to take some liberties here, but Tristan, you're there with them, so feel free to correct me. You've been studying this as much as I have. In fact, this particular church, you've probably studied this week more than I have. This church had become complacent. So this church was neither hot nor cold. They didn't have a love for God's word and truth like Ephesus did, but they also didn't have a love for each other like Philadelphia did. They weren't out there, and so they had become self-reliant, and they'd become really self-satisfied. It was one of these like, good for us. Look at how good of a church we are. Look at how awesome we are. And they just did their thing, and they got very worldly in that sense. And this can happen to churches as we're going through these and comparing where are we on this spectrum. We have to fight against this when we risk becoming complacent and just thinking about, well, it's the whole us four no more, right? It's our little church. And we can get so preoccupied that, it's more about the management of little things, how the chairs are set up. I know Tristan gave some examples last Sunday that I won't repeat here, but that are very contextual and work out very well. I'm just trying to think back. What are some things I've seen churches that get too self-absorbed in the past, they begin to fight over? It's little things like that. Yeah, chairs and things the way it's set up. Starting to fight over how budgets are spent departmentally. Oh, well, the women's ministry is getting more than the youth, and we have all these different things, and we start getting on all these inward stuff. Why are we sending so much money overseas, Pastor? Well, we need a new sign. What we need is a new sign out front. The Baptist church down the road, they've got one of them new LEDs, and we still have that old rickety wood sign. Why are we sending so much money to Uganda and Africa, which is in Uganda? I'm running out of ideas here, right? All these other countries, all these things, when we need a new sign right here. I really think that we should take care of ourselves before we begin to help others. Now, some people have more of a call at a conversation. I'm just so I don't offend anyone. Well, people that I'm not trying to offend. Some people have more of a bent. My dad is more of a call towards foreign missions. I'm a little more. I had a conversation with someone today. He said he's a little more home missions first. And I would kind of probably lean more towards him. I agree with my dad in the foreign missions, but then I'm going to probably lean a little more towards personally, let's reach our town. Yeah, we need to help foreign missions. So I'm not saying that. I don't want to make that offense there. But this idea of like we can become so self-focused that it's like, well, before we help anyone else, let's keep helping. We need this, we need this, we need this. All of our efforts become about us. We're very inward seeking. As a youth ministry, when we begin to worry more about our own services, our own whatever, versus going out and reaching the lost. Now, luckily, we don't have to worry about that too much because here, with Tristan and the group here, the lost are coming in, and there in Round Mountain, I believe that we're going through where we're building foundation and whatnot. But this idea of like, oh no, let's build a Christian subculture. And I've seen churches like this. We want the youth to have a place where good Christian folk can come and hang out, and we don't want them worldly kids coming here and smoking their pipes and doing their crack and getting pregnant and all this. They can go do that out in the world. We need a place for our kids here, okay? I don't know where this persona has come from today. India, yes, Lily, India. Send the money to India. They need it. Northern India specifically right now. You guys, pray for Northern India. They need missionaries and missionary teams. And so we have to be careful that the church of Laodicea, when it becomes very inner focused, God's like, yeah, that's gross. Like, I want to throw you up. Like, if you're a church that's on fire for my word and you're discipling people, okay, maybe you need to return to your first love. You got the Church of Philadelphia who's out there. And again, I made a comment a few weeks ago. I don't think if you're super missions focused, it fixes other things. Like you can be a narcissist and be serving others, and it kind of starts to fix the narcissism. It's really hard to only care about yourself when you're like in a dump feeding children who came out of the dump, like, and that's where they're living, right? And you're like, oh, this fixes all my problems. I am not the center of the universe. So thus we have, that's my theory, and I think Philadelphia backs it up. They're the missions church, and God's like, yeah, no, I don't have anything bad to say about you. Keep winning the lost. But he's like, I'd rather you be one or the other, hot or cold. Whatever purpose you're serving, when you become so inwardly focused, you become lukewarm, and that's gross. You're like old warm milk that got left out from the day before, and I go to drink you, and you're room temperature, and you have a few curdles already, and I'm going to throw you up. That's essentially how graphic the Lord is trying to be, and how disgusting he thinks it is when we're not passionate about him and his glory, essentially, is what it comes down to. Reaching the lost, teaching the word. Okay, I got way off on that. So, okay, this is interesting. There's a tradition that, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, so Tristan, you'll have to correct it for them there if you looked it up. Archippus had become the bishop of Laodicea some 30 years earlier. Paul warned him to be more diligent in fulfilling his ministry. In fact, Colossians 2:1. Let's read that. Let's turn to Colossians 2:1. I need some Jeopardy music. Oh, this Bible, guys, is hard to turn here in the back. Colossians. Definitely went too far. I left out in the snow. I started telling the story the other day, and then I forgot. I left this out in the snow for 2 days in the snow, and now the second half of the New Testament is a little bit sticky. Not sticky, but like the pages stick together. Did I get that right? Colossians 2:1. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay, there we go. See, all this New Testament is really helping get these pages rehabbed. Chapter 2, verse 1. I want you to know how much I have agonized for you and for the church at Laodicea, and for many other believers who have never met me personally. And then 4:16 through 17. After you have read this letter, pass it on to the church in Laodicea so they can read it too. And you should read this letter I wrote to them. And say to Archippus, be sure to carry out the ministry the Lord gave you. So he begins to call the guy out. So they say that there's a good chance that this guy became the bishop, and he had gotten, he slacked off a little bit. And so Paul's literally having to call him out and saying, hey, take care of your responsibilities. Like, pastor your flock. Get in there. Deal with these things that are going on. Don't let the church become so self-centered and so self-seeking that they become like warm water. They begin to compromise. Okay, let's see. Here's something that's interesting. We have to be careful to become like our culture. Laodicea was known for its prosperous neutrality. It was never military defendable, so its strategic posture was one of compromise. So the city itself always had to compromise. Hey, someone's coming in to try to take us over. We can't defend ourselves. Let's just make a compromise. And that began to seep into the church. And guys, that's the world we live in now. The world we live in now is all about compromise. We live in America. If you're watching this from another country, then I can't speak to your country. But those of us here in America, we live in a world of compromise and multiple avenues of truth. And your truth, my truth, that's all coexist, all these things. And that begins to seep into the church. And this is why, we've talked about some, weak pulpits. This is why we get weak pulpits. This is why we get weak and watered down Christianity, is because we begin to let the compromise from our nation begin to come into us. Okay, I'm not making this political, but a couple days ago, the president said that now the official policy of the United States is there are two genders. We've been compromising as a nation on that for years. There's all these different genders. There's binary, non-binary. There's all these different things, right? Hundreds and hundreds of different genders, thousands even. I've heard there's all these different numbers of how many there are. That's how many. They're infinite amounts, basically. And now the government has come out and said, hey, we're tired of compromise. 2 genders. There's 2. We're going to stand strong on this. In the same way, we need some pastors to stand up and say, hey, there's 2 ways. You can be hot or you can be cold. But wake up, church. You're lukewarm. You're trying to do this third, and God's going to spew out of his mouth. You can't be lukewarm. You try to say, oh, we're seeker-friendly. I'm not coming against seeker-friendly. Done well, that can be done well. But people use that, oh, we're a seeker-friendly church. No, you just have weak doctrine. Oh, we are a discipleship church. No, you just don't care for the lost, and you don't go out and win people. So you call yourself a discipleship church. Oh, you know what? We're a very evangelistic church. No, you guys are too lazy to study your word and deal with the controversies. So you say you're evangelistic because you have created an environment, much like Laodicea, that anyone can come in and sit and not be offended by anything. So, if there's 2 genders in America, God is saying to this church, there's 2 options. Be hot or be cold. Have those healing medicinal properties or have the refreshing properties of the cold, but you can't be lukewarm. And the world wants us to be lukewarm. Hey, you can go to church and do your little churchy thing, just then don't come into school and tell us how to be. Don't go out into work in different places and bring that God, gospel, Jesus stuff over here because we don't want to hear it. Oh, by the way, now listen to my profanity and my music and me talk about my sexual exploits and drinking over the weekend, but we keep that God stuff. It's inappropriate. So the world wants us to be lukewarm water, with no real purpose there. Real quick, a note, and I read part of scripture, but Laodicea is in close proximity to Colossae, and they're instructed to exchange letters, and they have some issues that, back and forth to deal with. And so that's why in that one, Paul is saying, hey, go take your letter over to Laodicea. Oh yeah, and tell their pastor, get off his butt and start pastoring the church. Fun fact, some believe that Archippus, or however you pronounce his name, is actually the son of Philemon. So that is a little fun fact there. You should all go read the book of Philemon and memorize it. It is a good book that will help you with a lot of issues in life. Okay, let's see. What else do we want to cover? Do you guys have any questions? A lot of comments. Do we have any questions for tonight? If not, I'm going to probably start to wrap us up here a little bit, because I think that's the main message I want to leave with you students. I know we have some non-students watching too, but thank you for giving the youth this night to kind of have a specific message for them. The gist of it is, God is saying, don't be a compromised church. And so you guys out there in Round Mountain, don't live a compromised life. I know there's lots of people around. When I was in high school, it was, hey, if you compromise a little bit, life will be easier for you. But then you're a compromised life. No one who ever did anything exceptional is from being compromised. And a lot of times you said, don't be lazy. A lot of times it is the easier option. It's harder to stand up for what you believe, especially when a lot of other people aren't. But here's the thing. Sometimes, let's go back to the church of Ephesus. Their warning was, if you don't go back to your first love, your lampstand will be removed. Okay, you're not losing your salvation. You're going to lose your witness. Well, what happens is so often no one wants to stand up. You think, I'm the only one. I'm in this classroom. I'm in this office. I'm in this place. I'm the only one. If I say something, it's me against everyone. And you stand up, you say something, and then lo and behold, there's others who also believe that way, but they have lost their witness. They've lost their effect. And so then they can gather behind you. They need someone to stand up and be that torchbearer to stand up for truth, and then others will rally behind you. It's a lie from the enemy that you're the only one. Just be quiet. Everyone else is in agreement, and you're the only one who's countercultural. But no, a lot of times that's what the lies everyone is believing. That's why we have leaders. That's why we have certain students who are called to stand up and blaze that trail for others. So I want to call you tonight, you students, be the ones to stand up. Well, I'm not very extroverted. I'm an introvert. Well, guys, back to the political stuff, since that's what's very relevant right now. Guys, Elon Musk is about as introverted as you can be. But for such a time as this, he feels he has to stand up. Dude can't, he's so awkward, he's accidentally doing Hitler salutes and stuff. He's trying to say, from my heart, I love you all. And it's coming off as Hail Hitler, okay? He's as awkward, autistic, introverted as you can be, but he knows I owe this to my generation to stand up and do it for future generations. And he's not even a Christian and a believer. We need to stand up and blaze the trail. Oh, I'm introverted, I'm quiet. That's fine. Oh, I'm not passionate. I'm more logical. Great. We need some people who can walk through some things. Well, I'm not as logical. I'm more emotional. Great. There's emotional people who don't, when people talk too logical, it goes right over their head and they go, you lost me. You used too many words. We need the emotional people to sit and go through the emotions with others, right? It takes, you guys have seen this firsthand. You're used to me as your youth pastor and your pastor on Saturdays. And now you've had Tristan. We're both getting into the same books, the same scriptures, and we're teaching in a very similar manner in terms we're trying to teach, and you see the difference between us. The passion I have on certain things versus the passion he has on certain things. The things I draw out and exhort you on, and the things he does. It takes multiple messengers to reach multiple people in that sense. So I'm calling you students, the charge I'm giving you tonight, and we're going to close, is to be able to stand up and be that torchbearer and let others rally around you. Don't wait. Lord, send someone, it might be you. That's how we ended up here. Lord, send someone to Ely. I'm tried. Okay. So you say, Lord, send someone to be the person. It might be you. He's calling you as a Christian to stand up and be that bold witness with truth and love. This is where I think like you take, this is my way I think of this. I like the good of Ephesus. I know they had some bad. You take the good of Ephesus, you mix it with the good of Philadelphia. You got the strong word and boldness, and you got the love and the reaching others. You put those together, you can't lose. It's a winning combination there. And so truth and love. We speak truth when we speak. We're intelligent. We understand what we believe. We can give an account for the things we believe. But at the same time, in love, the Bible talks about not pouring new wine into old wineskins. They'll burst. So you go in there with just truth and the person will burst. Not literally. So it's a combination of this truth and love. To be as wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Guys, it's really easy to be wise as a serpent or as harmless as a dove. It will take a life of Christian service to master being as wise as a serpent and as harmless as a dove. It's really easy to master truth or love. Trying to master both will take your Christian life to master, but we're called to. So with that, let's close in prayer. Lord, I thank you so much for tonight. I thank you for those online who are watching and the special privilege of having my youth students there from Round Mountain join us tonight. I pray a blessing on them right now, Lord, as they're there and they've gathered to worship you and learn about you. And I'm sure when I turn this off and I go home and I relax, they're now going to sit around. They're going to discuss tonight's message. They're going to talk about how they can apply it. And they're going to dig deep and they're going to dig inside of themselves of things they need to work on. And they're going to pray for each other. And I pray a blessing on that, Lord. Where the rest of us are going to turn this off and we're going to go back to our lives, that they're going to then dig in, Lord. They're going to be the Bereans plus tonight. They're going to go and how can we apply this to our lives and spend the next, 30 minutes to an hour discussing these things. I pray a blessing on them for that, Lord, and help them with that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Well, I know you guys need to get into your discussion and prayer time, so I'm not going to go through a bunch of announcements tonight. I will see you guys all soon. One more week. And I'm going to be down there with you guys in Round Mountain. We'll get back to our interactive Bible study we've been doing. Nod, nod, wink, wink. And we'll be, that'll be fun. I can't wait to see you guys again. It's been great doing this, but I don't want to preach twice a day every day anymore. I want to go back. I want to see you guys on the weekends, and then I want to be here, and I want to spend more time with the people in Ely. This has been fun. I will never do this again. Tristan, don't let me do this again, okay? Please. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I've had a great time. We're going to do something a little different next year. I already know what we're going to do next year for the new year. Instead of this, we're going to have a revival week instead of revival nights all month. It's going to be awesome. But you guys have a great night, and I'll see you soon.